Baruch Hashem, it is day number 92 of our daily study of Rambam, Sefer, HaMitzvos, and in our 3 chapters a day of Mishnah Torah, we are still in Hilchos Isurei Bia, specifically chapters 15, 16, and 17. These are laws of forbidden intimate relationships, and so that's what we have, just like we've had for the past several days. Negative commandments, all prohibitions of specific, off-limits, intimate relationships. Let's do them. Negative commandment 52, the prohibition against a Jew marrying a non-Jew. Negative commandment 53. This is going to require a little bit more explanation. This is a prohibition against marrying someone from the nations of Ammon and Moav. Ammon and Moav are nations which are actually related to each other. They both are from Lot. Lot was the brother of Sarah. He and his 2 daughters escaped the destruction of Sodom, and they had incestuous relations, and they gave birth to the progenitors of these 2 nations, Ammon and Moav. So, now you're going to say, well, why is it prohibited to have to marry someone from Ammon and Moav? Those are non-Jews. You just told me it's prohibited to marry a non-Jew, so isn't that redundant? No, what we're saying is that even after someone from Ammon and Moav, Ammon or Moav, become Jewish through halachic conversion, it is forbidden to marry that person. Interestingly, there was a whole discussion about the lineage of King David. David HaMelech, because he's descended from Ruth, was from Moav. She was a Moabite. But the prohibition is against marrying the male converts from Ammon and Moav. Now you're going to ask, well, what happens to these people? Who do they marry? So they can marry other converts from Ammon and Moav or any other converts. As long as they are still from a known lineage of being from Ammon and Moav, however, they cannot marry a born Jew. Negative commandment 55, not to reject an Egyptian. What does that mean? It means, in contrast to what we just learned about the converts from Ammon and Moav, this is talking about a convert from Egypt. I don't mean geographical Egypt. I mean someone who's from the biblical nation of Mitzrayim, meaning who is descended from the biblical Mitzrayim, the actual people who were the inhabitants of biblical Mitzrayim. We don't know such people today. Probably such lineage doesn't even exist. But there's a prohibition against rejecting an Egyptian convert from marrying a born Jew after 3 generations, as opposed to Ammon and Moav, where Ammon and Moav, as long as they have that status of having that lineage, they don't marry a born Jew. But an Egyptian convert, after 3 generations, is able to marry a born Jew. Okay, negative commandment 54, very similar, not to reject someone who is an Edomi from Edom, which is the nation that is descended from Esav or Esau. And this is similar to the previous prohibition. It's talking about a convert from Edom, and in the 3rd generation, he is allowed to marry a born Jew. By the way, who is a famous convert from Edom? Avadia. Obadiah, I think they say in English. And because he's a convert from Edom, he is the one who had the merit to prophesize about the downfall of Edom. It's actually the Haftorah for Parshas Vayishlach. Okay, negative commandment 354, the prohibition against marrying a mamzer. People translate that as bastard, but that is not a great translation because the English term has a different meaning. A mamzer means somebody who is born from any of these forbidden relationships that we've been mentioning, all these incestuous relationships, or a relationship with a married woman. That's what a mamzer is. So a mamzer cannot marry a born Jew. They could marry a convert, however. Negative commandment 360. That is the prohibition against a castrated man not to marry a Jewish woman. And negative commandment 361, the prohibition against castration, against castrating a male. Interestingly, this also applies to animals. One's not allowed to castrate a male animal either. Those are our mitzvahs for today. We will see you again, God willing, tomorrow.